On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with David Shultz from commonsku, and he tells us why we shouldn't eventually our life away. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is what I like to call an actual industry rock star. You can tell by the guitars on the wall behind him. He is the VP of Supplier Partnerships at commonsku. He's my good buddy, David Shultz. Thanks so much for joining me, bud.
Hey, Kirby. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I always enjoy it when I get to talk to you. So,
yeah, we can talk running, we can talk guitars, whatever you want, or we can actually just do this.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
We'll talk about those later.
Yeah, right. Once the recording is done.
Yes.
So one thing I know about you is you were with Distributor Central for many years. You were one of the leaders there, one of the creators there. And now you've made the transition and you're at commonsku, another technology company. So tell me what it was like to make that transition after all that time. How did that go?
Well, it went fine. I mean, I had been there for 17 years, kind of there from when we launched the company. And, I came on board originally. I came from the engineering world and was in grad school at the time. And this opportunity with this small startup in Kansas City, or on the outskirts of Kansas City, came up. And it was involving a lot more on the tech side and the web development side than I had been doing in the past. A little known fact about me, pro tip, my undergraduate degree was in meteorology.
Wow.
Yeah. I tell
it.
that to people and they're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you doing in this industry? Of course, as you and I know, nobody lands in this industry on purpose for the most part. So,
yeah. Well, but what I would say is you are set up to weather the storm. So, yes.
Nice pun.
Okay.
Like it. So I took that shot, went to work at the time for Jason Noakes and Tom Mertz, who Tom was also the founder of TradeNet Publishing. And so they were kind of launching Distributor Central at that time. And a great group of people, learned a lot, got to do a lot of really cool stuff in terms of learning the development side and eventually phasing myself out of the coding side per se, because we had a lot of really sharp, younger, smarter developers coming on staff at that time. And Jason and I and Tiffany kind of knew the industry side more. So we spent more time talking to the customers about what we did and let the people who really knew the coding do the coding.
Right.
But yeah, great group of people. So there's always a time where you feel like there may be something else you should be trying or doing. And I was there for 17 years. It was a long time. And this opportunity came up out of the blue to go work for a couple of people that I have a ton of respect for in the industry, Mark and Catherine Graham. And at the time you tell yourself, well, I've been here for 17 years. How can I leave, or how can I do something different? And, as somebody wise said to me recently, you can eventually yourself out of a lifetime, So if you just keep putting things off and decide not to try something new, you could miss out on a great opportunity. And this was a great opportunity to work with some people I really admire and a team that's been doing some really, really cool stuff. And in fact, if you saw PPB this week, both Distributor Central and commonsku were listed as two of the top companies in the industry to work for. So I've been lucky enough to work with two really good groups of people. And I'm 6 months in. It's going really well. I've been having a lot of fun, learning a lot from some people that really do some fascinating things in terms of both development and content and in-person live shows and things like that. So it's been a lot of fun the last 6 months.
That's cool. I've been saying I feel like it's like becoming a dream team over there at commonsku, and I'm glad things are going well for you. So, I think all of us, or many folks, end up making that transition at some point, right? Some sort of transition.
Yeah.
So because you've just done it, right? Like, so what advice would you give someone getting ready to make a jump and start something new? What advice do you have?
If it feels right, if it feels right and it feels like something that's going to either make you more happy or more fulfilled or teach you something new about yourself, then there's no right time to do it, And I had a hard time coming to grips with having to tell my team that I was doing this. That was probably the most difficult part. the transition was the easier part. The having to go and tell Jason and Tiffany and Tom and the rest of the team there that I was leaving was the hard part. And I gave quite a long transition period. I think it was about a month or so I spent kind of transitioning roles. And quite frankly, I still talk to them all the time. I have beers with Jason at least once a month. And, Common SKU and Distributor Central still have a technical partnership in terms of the product data feed. So I still talk to him all the time. But yeah, like I said, it's you can eventually yourself out of a lifetime and never take that opportunity, never take that chance and try something new. And I know you've done that with several of your business ventures as well. So I just it felt right, and it was the right time of my life to try something different. So.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. I really do like that. And I will say, man, I've said that to people before where it's like, the wrong time to do it is someday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so I like that. So one of the things you and I have talked about, we've talked about on this show, we've talked about in personal lives, is we enjoy doing things that are more adventurous. Obviously, and on a separate show, we talked about doing the Ragnar race together, which was epic.
Yeah.
And just the idea to try new things and, have some adventure in our life. So talk to me first about why you think that matters. And I'm curious to know what adventures you have coming up.
Yeah, I've been so busy with the new job and 2 teenage kids and one getting ready to go off to college in a year that I don't have a whole lot of hardcore adventures on my plate at the moment coming up. We'll see, though, because I shouldn't be admitting this in public, but I've got a pretty milestone birthday coming up later this year. And so,
I know that. I didn't say it. I know that.
For my 40th birthday, I think I did an Ironman and I did a triathlon in Thailand. And, at one point I went to raise money for one of our women's shelters in Kansas City. I went over to Tanzania and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro and raised money for basically every foot we climb. So I've always had a love of those type of adventures, and particularly if they can be tied back to something cause related, like that was to raise money. And travel in general, I think it's like, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. So get out there, go see the world, learn about different cultures and things like that. When I was in middle school, middle school, my father was stationed in Belgium for 3 years. So, and it was a unique military base. It wasn't a U.S. military base. It was the NATO headquarters. And so your neighbors weren't all American military. One of my neighbors was British Air Force, and my other neighbor was Italian Navy. So as kids, none of us even spoke the same language, but we played together every day. So it was a pretty fascinating way to, to kind of think about things that way. And for me, going out into nature, going hiking or going running is always a way that, it brings the blood pressure down and lets you think about things other than work for a while. And, so I can't imagine those will ever go away. But yes, for sure, we need to do another Ragnar. I think the other day you agreed to do a half marathon with me and Mark Graham at some point this year, maybe.
Maybe.
So we've got to get that on the calendar. And yeah, it's pretty neat too seeing. I mean, the industry has kind of rallied behind this idea too, right? It's like for so many years, all of our networking was done in bars and restaurants. Yeah. And, Dana Zezzo kind of tipped that on its ear one year when he said, well, let's go out in the desert and run for 24 hours. And then at the Chicago show one year, instead of going out to a steak dinner, we took some clients out stand-up paddleboarding on the canals in downtown Chicago. So cool. There's always something different you can do that puts a little adventure and mystery back into what used to be kind of, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having drinks in a bar with your friends. That's always a great thing to do. But yeah.
Yeah, so mixing it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will always have a special place in my heart for the group that went and slept in tents in Arizona in the Ragnar. So yeah, that was really cool. So, okay, cool. You've answered my 3 questions. Great job. You get a chance to ask me one. Do you have one for me?
Yeah, I mean, I had some really oddball ones I was going to ask you, but it came back to, I've seen you launch new initiatives, new businesses, new podcasts, new video content, all kinds of new stuff. Currently, a lot of those are related to our industry. I know you have some businesses that are outside our industry related to beer and commercial real estate and things like that. But if I were to walk up to you and write you a check for $100,000 and said, go start any new business you want today, what would you consider doing? What kind of business would you launch?
Wow, I have not been asked that question. That's a great question. Okay, so in addition to what I'm already doing, right? Is that
right?
Okay.
Yep.
So I think that we're at a time where where everybody else is zigging and you can zag. I think in the right niche, some sort of publishing company might have a play. And by publishing, that might be a printed piece, but it also might be website. It might be, like a publishing as in today's publishing. I actually think there'd be, if you find the right niche, if it's triathlon runners who are in the promotional products industry, probably not that
niche.
Like
a triathlon rock band?
Yeah, right. But something, if you could find the right niche to play into, and then you could essentially create online content, you could create social. I think printed. I actually think event-based. I think that some sort of publishing / media company in that vein is intriguing to me. And I see that and I go, I think the people, actually I had this conversation today, David, I think it ties back, is I think that the people who have control over the idea of creating real human connection again, because we've strayed away from it, technology has allowed us to actually isolate ourselves and make us more lonely. And I think that the people who are in charge of getting people back together really have an interesting way to monetize their future. And so I think that's probably my answer.
That's cool. It's an interesting way to look at it.
Cool, man. Well, that was a great question. I haven't been asked that one before, so I love it. Well, hey, thank you so much for doing this. I always appreciate it.
It was going to be that or the one, if you found a penguin in your refrigerator, what would you do?
Yeah, no.
We'll save that for next time.
Yeah, next time I will definitely answer that. Well, thanks, buddy. We'll have to do it again, okay?
Yeah, thanks, Kirby.
Well,
Talk to you soon.
Yep, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.